it's easy to overspend when eggs are like 3 times as expensive as they were a few years ago, or gas is twice as expensive as it was just a few months ago. And so I'm going to unpack how I'm helping our family reduce our expenses without sacrificing quality.
I'm unapologetically a huge fan of Costco. My wife has joked about buying me the Kirkland Signature branded sweatshirt just because I would wear it as a badge of honor. Just ask my family, my friends, our neighbors, from buying 5 dozen eggs at a time to $1.50 hot dogs on Sunday. We go almost every week. It's like a religious pilgrimage for me. And I know that's like a huge exaggeration and that's silly, but at best, I'm a meal prepping beacon of efficiency. And at worst, I'm somewhere between a doomsday prepper hoarding material or just a literal hoarder. And so we're one of those families that's typical, a typical millennial family that will maybe even grab two massive carts, one with each kid in it, because we know we're going to fill them up. But we still manage to stay within our budget month in and month out. And on average, we end up spending less there because we know how much we go in intending to spend. So, to help put it in perspective, the average cost of monthly groceries for one adult on a thrifty typical budget plan ranges from $215 to $308. And when I say groceries, I mean basically food that's not at a restaurant. You may think, well, I spend more than that. You may spend a few $100s just in delivery fees. I don't know your business, but this is a typical example and the average we find from the studies. And when it comes to a family of four, all right, this is where it gets important for you. The average cost for a monthly grocery bill shoots up to almost $1,000. Okay, $968 is the average for a family of four. And the average means there's people on the extreme high and low side of that, but it's a major difference. And we're talking about going from one adult and one income to trying to feed four mouths, maybe with two incomes, maybe with one income, but maybe triple or quadruple the expense. And so these are important statistics to help really get in perspective as we dive into these examples.
All right, as promised, here's 3 different examples of how to reduce your expense side of your budget. So the first one is going to be what I call scorched earth approach, reducing your expenses and treating it as if it's a all-in kind of game. And so I were to look for inspiration for this minimalist approach, you may find yourself using this if you're in a dire situation, or if you've just never really formed these habits before. And sometimes the best place to look is to look at your parents. Now, if your parents, and be honest with yourself, if they had a tendency to spend without thinking, that's pretty common and it's unfortunate. And honestly, it really is the biggest direct motivator for your spending habits. The biggest impact on your spending is probably going to be from the environment that you grew up in. And so that could be your parents, it could be a caregiver, it could be just like the community that you were in. So really take a look at where you come from and where you want to be going and learn from that. And so the first thing is probably going to be to take an extreme approach. This was me in college. Okay, we're talking, I had 1.5 plates to my name. You think it must have been saving so much money. And sometimes I was. Sometimes I look back on a week and I'd be like, wow, I went to Moe's for every single night of the week. And so sometimes college students, man, they're living so thrifty. They don't need a couch. They've got a beanbag chair that they found on the side of the road. But when you really dig down deep, are they really saving money or are they getting DoorDash sent to their beanbag every night? So the first thing is going to be to really get to a minimalist stance. And it's going to take looking at a bunch of different ways to really hone in on your budget. But the next options, you've got your minimalist approach. And number 2, what I call an alpha mom approach. Okay. This is your person who shows up to the store, book it full of coupons, buying in bulk, going to those big box stores and making the most of it, buying and selling used items on Facebook Marketplace. And this is a sweet spot for a lot of millennial parents. I think that anyone can live into this. And I think most millennials kind of get comfortable in this space. The number one trap is going to be overbuying. And so you see this all the time. I mean, I'll go to Costco and I have the intention of buying one bag of dog food, and $600 later, I got 2 carts and I'm calling in backup trying to get someone to like loan me a truck to get home. And so that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about going and overbuying. And we're definitely not talking about all the different ways that marketing is trying to target this level right here and trying to sell you things disguised as discounts and deals. I know that you've seen it before in many instances and we've all fallen prey to it. But if you find yourself on Instagram saying, wow, that gadget is going to save me so much money because it's going to do X, Y, or Z for me in the kitchen, and you don't really start thinking about, well, how much money is it saving? Well, I'm going to save 10 cents every other time I use it. I'm going to use it twice a year, but the thing costs $30. It's going to take you a lifetime to make that money back. And so we tend to be sold this idea of efficiency, and it's really convenience disguised as efficiency being marketed directly towards a modern sensibility of being thrifty and being good stewards of our money. And so that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is trimming, not necessarily hacking the bush to the ground, kind of like the minimalist approach, not scorched earth, but trimming back the foliage. Now, option number 3 is what I would call a maximalist approach, is frankly my favorite. And that is what many would consider to be the bootstrap, hard work, grind mentality. Earn more, work more, growing your income side to then feed your expenses. It's an exciting way to be, especially if you want to work, if you want to get out there and build something and have it serve what your expense desires are so that you can have a balanced lifestyle. The problem is that most people that are prone to this, and this is me included, I'm definitely in this camp. If you're prone to trying to figure out how much you can make so that you can then go spend it somewhere else, that second part of the equation is the trap. And the trap is the lifestyle creep. I know you've heard about this, especially when you think of people and they get a raise and somehow that 5%, 10%, 20% more that they're making just disappears into their budget. And they're like, wow, we had all this margin for a split second and then it's gone. All of a sudden, bigger house, better car, nicer clothes, more toys for the kids. Travel is a huge part of this. And I got nothing against travel. Love to travel. One of my personal goals is to travel with my family out of town at least once a month throughout the entire year. So don't get me wrong. I think it's a great thing, but the way I'm going to get there is a combination of all 3 of these, but especially a maximalist approach to getting the income to serve that goal. But if you're just looking for income's sake and you don't have a goal and you don't have a job for that income when it comes in, then it's just going to disappear into the ether of your just typical spending habits.
To summarize, here's 3 steps that we use to decrease our expenses month to month in our family budget. So number 1 is we measure what matters. So our budget, it's a ruler, it's a measuring stick, and it guides us month to month on our spending and on our income to set better goals. And that takes us to number 2, SMART goals. I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions or aspirational goals in your next decade or your next life. I'm talking about specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound goals. Those are SMART goals that you're going to be able to see happen in your life in a realistic time span. So the first one was measure what matters. If you don't measure it, you'll lose it. The second one was SMART goals. And the third is to not stop learning. So be on the lookout. There's so many resources out there. Instagram accounts, YouTube channels, Facebook groups, different groups of people that have all these different hacks and tips and wisdom for reducing your expenses and for saving money in ways you never thought possible. And the only thing holding you back is your own investment, your own initiative to get in there and see how one of those 3 examples we talked about can be part of your future. So follow us on all my social media channels, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and I share daily on those places That's a place where every day I'm sharing tips on how to reduce your expenses and to make more money and really win in this money game.